Okay. So thank you everyone for joining the session today. I think as I mentioned in the emails and also in the invitation, this is for people that are joining for the Data Festival as well as for the Hack Ed this weekend. The main purpose of the session is basically to just let you know some of the tips and tricks that we've had over the years in terms of how to participate in a hackathons and how to perhaps organize your teams and organize your tasks so that you can potentially win the hackathons or at least get the best out of the opportunity. And for this purpose, I prepared a short presentation. We'll actually try to go through this all within half an hour. And then after that, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me as well as other team members. So for example, Gayatri and other teams, they've also participated in several competitions before, and they probably have experiences that they can also share. Gayatri is also part of the team to help organize the Digital for Good festivals in our first iterations, and so she also knows a lot about all the different stress and issues that everyone has during the festival as well. So yeah, now welcome everyone who is joining today, and I'll just start by sharing my short presentation. Yes, I hope you can all see the screen. If not, then let me know. Let's see if I can put this on full screen. Okay, so I think all of this tips and tricks especially comes from my personal experience, right? And also from someone who have participated in a lot of hackathons and competitions in data, as well as someone who organizes it behind the scenes, who creates, for example, judging guidelines for the judges, and then see the behind the scenes of how they judge on these competitions. So I basically like this is tips and tricks based on all of that. And this also varies from competitions to competitions and from people to people as well. But certainly, I think most people stick to a lot of these frameworks so that they can organize their competitions and the events more efficiently. And so all the tips and tricks basically stem from that. So there are basically three-step process whenever you start to participate in hackathons. Right? So the first step is always before the competitions, when you start to prepare for it. So you might think that, okay, so it's a fun hackathon event. I might just go and enjoy the events without having to do anything or having to prepare anything. And that's absolutely fine as well. So if you just want to go in and enjoy the competition as is, then you're absolutely free to do so. But if you want to perhaps come into it with a little bit more strategies, then I actually suggest to actually prepare together with your teams at least a week before the event so that you can all be on the same page. So the first thing that I would recommend is to actually know what you are up against. You should perhaps research on what has been done in previous years in terms of competition. If the competition is something that has taken place before, then it's very wise to also look into it on what kind of data or perhaps what kind of challenges that were presented in the hackathons before, so that you know generally what kind of directions are they going for. Is it industry orientated or is it more academic research orientated? And then a lot of these experience can also be found in blog posts, right, of people that have participated before, or it can perhaps be shared by the official organizers themselves, or maybe even in YouTube videos of people that joined or even from the organizers. And so, for example, I post a blog post here for my experience in Data Fest 2019. And you can also read about that afterwards. I will share the link to the presentation. You can also take a look and to see what we did back then. So the first step is to just basically do some research, right? So to know what exactly you're up against. And so if you're perhaps participating in something that are being organized for the first time, then this is not something that you are maybe have the privilege of, but then you also know the directions, right, of the hackathon as well. You know the topics perhaps, and then you know what perhaps what are some of the other schools that are joining. Then you basically know the audience of the hackathons, and you also know perhaps the organizers, who they are and what they're interested in. And you can also kind of infer what kind of topic that we would perhaps be a part of this competition. And then the second step is to also divide the roles within your team. So you can also think that, I can just come with my teams on the date, and then we can just vibe and then see what would happen on the day. But it's actually very advisable to discuss with your team first to see what roles you would best play during the competition. So one thing that you would notice is that it's a very short competition. Right? So it's only 3 days, and then the first day is usually very chaotic. You don't know what's going on. You're given the challenges, and then everybody is doing their own thing. And so that's it's basically valuable times that will be wasted if you are only discussing about your roles and responsibility on the day of the event. So I would highly recommend to sit together with your teams and to just discuss about your strengths and weaknesses. What do you want to do? So for some people, they absolutely love to present, right? Some people absolutely love to talk and to present, and then that person would perhaps then be fitting to do the presentations and do the research on the content, while everyone else basically working on the ideas and on the executions of the prototype, for example. Some people love to code, and then they would be basically your main workhorse in terms of coding and data visualizations, exploratory and machine learning building models, for example. Some people love to do research. Some people love to do desk research and look into things and ideas, and then how to incorporate other ideas into um, the um, the data or to the prototype. Then they would be perfect for desk researchers. Some people can also support the teams logistically and also take care of the teams while everyone else was working as well. So you can assign clearly the role within your team, but you can also be very vague, right? So, for example, you can be very perhaps you can be very clear. Okay, you're the data analysis, you are the data engineers, you are the prototype builder, you're the presenter. Or you can also be very vague and say, hey, so this is for the first day. Everyone sit together and we sit together as a team, and then we basically look into this together as a team, right? And then on the second day, you can say, okay, on the second day, after the first day, you have known a little bit about what the data is. Then on the second day, you just start to look into it further, and then you can start to separate and clearly define the role of everyone after that as well. So there's different strategies on how to best do this. But what I found is the most effective for most teams is just to know your clear role first before you come into the competition. So you can also prepare yourself, right? So for example, people that are in the presenter role, for example, they can do some research on perhaps what is the best way to present your findings or your presentations to the judges. What are some of the fun ways to perhaps incorporate into the presentation that it's more exciting and more easy for people to understand. So, like for example, that's basically means that you have more preparations, basically. So clearly defined roles leads to better prepared individuals for the team. So that's my general recommendations. And then with the clearly defined roles, then you can also review and also retrain on some of the things that you would perhaps want to learn more about, right? So you know what you're up against, you have your clearly defined roles, then you can start to review on what you can perhaps do as part of the competition. So some people might want to perhaps review some of the data visualization skills. Some people might want to review on their presentation skills. Some people might even want to perhaps like creating boilerplate things, right? Boilerplate presentations, boilerplate code, so that by the time when you're in the competitions, you already have something as a framework that you can put things on. So this is on the final step, which is if you have time, I would actually had recommend to perhaps create like a share workspace where you can maybe perhaps share some boilerplate codes for initial visualizations or data cleaning, and maybe some boilerplate presentation format so that you can start to put things into it very quickly when the competition starts as well. So one thing that I see a lot of team lose out on is basically time on the last day. So a lot of team only start to work on the presentations on the very last day of the events, which is very counterintuitive because actually when you present, it's only your presentation that people see, right? So they don't see the code that you're writing. They don't see all the work that goes on behind the scene, though. They only see the presentation. So the presentation is something that is probably one of the most important things that you want to present to people. And so you should work on it as soon as possible, even ideally on the first day. Just like putting in information about, okay, so what is the challenge and what we're trying to do? What is the goal that we're trying to achieve here? And then after that, it's like putting in all the other information, like the finding that you have or the work that you put into it, or perhaps the prototype that you want to showcase to the audience. So having these prepared before it really helps to calm you down when you are in the competition itself, because it's as I mentioned before, it's 3 days and it's very stressful, and so having something prepared that you can follow, and a framework that the team is happy with. It's very crucial to keep you, I think, on track and also be confident, and not panicked, and having last minute changes and things. And during the competitions, so what happens so there are two strategies that I see a lot of teams implement. So some teams, they basically have a very relaxing approach on the first day when they hear the hackathon challenges. Then they sit together as a team. They have workshop sessions with everyone. They theorize. They work on perhaps some kind of hypothesis on what they could work on together. And then they maybe try to do some initial data cleaning and exploratory data analysis. But basically, the first day is their exploration day. So they don't do very heavy coding. They only sit together and they talk, and then they enjoy basically learning about the data, and basically to have a very clear idea about the data, what it is, that you're trying to do, and what it is that you want to showcase to the people, so that you have a very clear directions on the very first day of what you want to do, and then you use that as the guideline for the next 2 days that you have. And so it's usually, with these teams, are usually a very relaxing approach. They basically sit together, they talk for a few hours, and then maybe do some coding. And then at night, they actually go out and they go drinking, or they enjoy each other's companies and they talk. And so they actually have a very relaxing approach. And then on the second day, that's when they start to do the heavy coding. And when everyone already knows what they're doing, and they already have a very clearly assigned task. Or I also see some other teams that really do go all out on the first day to get as much done as possible. Basically means that on the first day, these teams basically they stay up very late at night. They actually stay up even overnight on the first day to actually get as much done as possible, so that they don't have to panic, or they don't have to change things on the second or the third day. And then maybe on the second day, once they have done everything they need to do, then they can relax and they can enjoy themselves. This approach also works, but it's a bit more stressful, and it also depends a lot on the team's personality as well. If you guys want to work together very intensively, and that you work together under pressure very, very well, then yeah, be very welcome to try this approach as well. Generally, I go for the first approach, mainly because it's more relaxing, and then you also have more time to discuss about the directions and about the actual core of what you want to present, and then that's it's a little bit more, I think. Also, you change directions very often, right, in competition. So maybe on the first day you're working on something like very intensively, but then on the second day it's like someone else come up with a better ideas, and then you change directions. And so it might as well better be to spend the first day just to get out all these ideas and to let it float around, and then on the second day, that's when you can also talk, and you can also change things while without wasting a lot of efforts that has been done on the first day. And then on the data sets, so this is only for hackathons that have data sets. So usually the first half hour, and hour is when you panicked the most, because it's also it's very exciting, because you see something, and then your brain starts to work, and then the adrenaline starts to go up. It's also very confusing, because a lot of time the data is very messy, and then you don't know what are some of the missing things that are there. It's also sometimes very chaotic, because everyone has their own ideas, and everyone's shooting ideas around without any single directions, which is why having clear design roles and also having a clear team set up before is very useful. Then what I would highly recommend is for the first half an hour to an hour to just not do any coding, right? Just sit together, look into the data, look at all the columns that you can, and if there's like a code book, then look into all the variables, what they actually mean. Do some desk research altogether, right, on this particular topic and this particular industry that perhaps the data set is about. Then you have a clearer idea on what you're up against, right? So the first hour, maybe even 2 hours, just don't do any coding, and just sit and look at the data and let it marinate on your brain, so that you understand a little bit better what the data is. You can also do some preliminary exploratory data analysis. So basically just looking at the data types, right? So look at how many columns you have, what are the data types, and how many categorical variables you have, for example. Just basically just some initial analysis to see what are the distributions within the data. Are there any missing data? What kind of external data perhaps you can add to this so that you can do it right at the beginning, right, and not at the end where everything is already done, and then someone say, okay, how about adding this other data, all the external data that you want to add. Highly recommend you research and then you add it at the beginning. That's why I think it's highly relevant to sit with the data first before doing any coding, so that you have a clearer idea about the data and what you need, and what is perhaps missing from the data set. And also make use of your times, right? So as I mentioned before, so the team can be divided into different groups, and so some people might already have a very good idea, and might be very good at coding, and so they're maybe perhaps focusing on cleaning and wrangling the data. Then you perhaps can spend that time to then do some research on the domain, right? So for example, the presenters or the people that do the research, and then perhaps look into the domain further and to see what are some of the interesting things that are happening in this domain. What are people saying about the data? What are people saying about these kind of hypotheses? So that you can perhaps bring that and to the table when we actually do start to go into the analysis part, right? So basically, when someone is doing something technical, someone else should be doing something perhaps on the research and on the preparation side, so that everyone is doing something and you don't feel left out, right? So a lot of things that a lot of times I see when teams working on things, like a lot of people focus on a particular topic that or a particular directions that they like, and then they really hone on it, and then other people feel kind of left out because they don't know what the others are doing, and then they don't know how they can contribute, and so for a lot of times when things like this happens, then you can also tell people, okay, so you're working on analysis, you're working on this particular hypothesis, then I'm gonna try to find some time to do some domain research, and can look into this research. I can look at this topic, so that everyone knows that someone is doing so that you don't have double responsibilities, you don't have people doing double the efforts, and then also you feel included, right? And also other people feel that, okay, you're not just riding on the coattail of everyone else, for example. That happens quite often in hackathons, and then people's friendships are also broken apart because okay, they feel underappreciated or they feel left out, and that's not very nice. Like you go into this with a spirit of learning, right? You want to learn together, and you want to grow together, and you want to be together as a team. So enjoy the process, enjoy it, and have fun. And also, yeah, focus on your strength in public policy, right? So you are a public policy student. Other schools are not like that. Other schools, they're focusing on a particular topic, on something else. And so what I see a lot in competition is that the public policy directions and the public policy viewpoint is something that is very unique in the presentation. So a lot of other teams, they will try to do maybe like very fancy machine learning, very fancy deep learning, large language model, chatbot, and whatever. But then a lot of times you don't think about, oh, okay, so what is the causal link? What is the actual usefulness of this, right? So how do you explain this approach? How do you explain this could impact policy, how this could impact the general public, for example? And so this is where you come in with your strength. Right? So you come in with your stats, you come in with your causal analysis ability. You also come in with your viewpoint on what does this mean for the public sector, right? So on policies and on social implications, what does a data set like this, or what does the finding of this data set, how does it impact policy? How do you present this perhaps to policymakers and to decision makers to make a change? So this is, I think, a very unique perspective that often is missing in a lot of the presentations that I see in competitions, where people just are focused on, okay, so this is the fun, cool prototype that we have, but then they don't actually explain what is it actually for, who is using it, and then how do they actually make an impact with these particular products or product. And also, yeah, during the competitions, you can also do very dirty coding, right? So you don't have to do very, okay, this is the comment, and this is, okay, a function, and this is a class or whatever. No, nobody rates the coding. Nobody looks into the coding. You don't have to code very prettily. You can do very dirty coding. You can write very stupid variable names. Nobody's going to look into it. So yeah, the judges, they care more about the visualizations, about the insights that you have, and what kind of interesting things that you find from the data, or what kind of interesting that you can bring to the table during the presentation. So don't focus too much on the coding part. I mean, the coding part is important, but it should not be something that you spend a lot of time to refine or to make it pretty so other people can read it. You can do it later if you want to publish it. But during the competitions, just code very dirty. You can use AI to support it, which I will show a little bit later. And then for the presentations, yeah, know your audience, right? As I mentioned earlier, look into who are your judges. They usually publish who are the judges in their websites, or perhaps you know it from the competitions themselves, so that you can kind of tailor the presentations to their expertise and knowledge, right? So, for example, um, some people that are professors of, for example, government affairs, then they perhaps care more about the policy aspect. Some people that are professors of computer science, for example, then they may care more about the engineering aspect. Then, like knowing your audience, then you can kind of cater their presentations to their taste and their expertise, so that they also feel included, and then they also feel, okay, I understand what they're trying to do here. What they're trying to do is actually very impressive. Or okay, I see that they actually care about this aspect of governance, and then they actually include this in their understanding and then their findings. Then it basically gives you more of a good impression for these judges. And also use this as a networking opportunities, right? So don't just sit together with your team all the time. Also go out to other team members and chat with them, especially during lunchtime as well, or dinner time, and talk to companies and people that are there. They're like everyone's there for competition, but also they're there for fun, right? So they're also there for the networking opportunities and also to meet other people. So I think it's also a very good time and chance to make some new friends and to learn what everyone else is doing in other schools. So you can also yeah make some new connections as well in the industry. And yeah, have fun in the competition locations. Find the time to enjoy the city that you're in, and have fun with your teammates. So as I mentioned earlier, if you do the first strategy approach, which is you take it very easy on the first day, because usually on the first day you travel and then you're quite tired, and then you can take it easy on the first day. You sit together, you chat, and then you talk about the directions, and then you maybe doing some initial analysis, and then yeah, like go out for dinner or go out for some beer with your teammates, and to just like enjoy each other's company. And it's a fun thing to do, and I highly recommend it. When we did the Data Fest in 2019, like and both on the first day and on the second day, my team went out for drinks, right? So we code and we sit together, and it was very stressful. But then after that, we were just like, okay, fuck it, let's just go out and get some drinks together, and then go back to the hostel early and get some good night's sleep before we go very heavily in it. And it's actually the best time that I had at the competition, which is actually on the beer table with everyone, and just share what everyone's about our dreams and motivations and where we want to go after college. And then that was I think that was my favorite part about the competitions, not the winning part. And then what happens after all of this, after the competition, what you should do afterwards. So keep in touch with your team, right? So the people that you make friends with at the competitions, make sure to add them on LinkedIn or in some other platforms where you can keep in contact with them. It's a very big but also very small industry, right? So it might be that they're your colleagues, they might be your bosses, or they might be your employees in the future. So be sure to keep in contact with them, and they might be able to open a lot of doors of opportunities for you later on in the future. But also, they may just be very good friends in the cities that you're in, right? Or that you're traveling to, that you can meet every once in a while and catch up and learn about each other's journey. And second is also documents about your experience. So a lot of times when people go to these competitions and then they finish it and then they just throw away all the code and they throw away all the things that you did, and then that's I think quite wasteful. So one thing that I can highly recommend is actually after you finish with the competitions, then go back and then clean up a little bit your code. You can use AI to clean up your code and put some comments into it and structure it a little bit better, and then put it on GitHub, right? And you can put it also you can write a blog post on it on Substacks, on Mediums, or on your university's blog post as well, so that other people know about your experiences, right? So that other people in the future, they can also research as you have done before and then learn about your experience. And it's also something that you can use maybe even for job opportunities as well. I know people that have submitted their blog posts about their hackathons and what they did during the hackathons to job, and actually people ask about that during their job interviews. And so I think it's highly recommended that you write about the experience and then put it somewhere so that other people can find it. It's online content on the internet, and it's human written content, right? So it's evergreen, and you can always find it afterwards. And yeah, share your experience with your schoolmates and also the communications teams at Herdy, so that other people know about it and they can also feature about it. And then perhaps maybe the right people can perhaps reach out to you or know about you through this communications as well. And then last is request the reimbursement, please, immediately after the trip. I know that a lot of people get lazy and they forget, and I do that as well. I have reimbursement requests that I haven't actually submitted in 8 months, and I think it's kind of expired now. So I think I'm out of like 300 euros or something because I did not take a photo of that particular invoice and then send it into the reimbursement team. So please, 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 after you come back from your competitions, to take a photo of all the tickets and everything and keep them in a folder somewhere, and then submit it to me so that I can process it and bring it back to the invoice team. And then last is on the AI support tools. There are, I think, several ways that these tools can help you. So one is they can be coding assistants, right? In the sense that they can help you to code better. They can actually even write the entire code for you. So there's this new phenomenon in the computer science and coding communities, which is vibe coding, which is you basically code everything with AI, right? So you don't actually code yourself anymore. You basically just provide the instructions for the machine learning model or the AI coding assistants, and then it basically creates everything for you. I mean, I do this as well. I don't actually code myself anymore, and I just use this AI tools all the time now, and I'll show you one of the tools a little bit later. But basically, this is a possibility now, which is but then knowing how to code is also useful, right? So you know how to debug and you know where there's something that can be wrong, because a lot of time these tools are only auto completion tools, and they don't actually have the intelligence to actually go into it, into the finer details, and maybe go into all the documentations to fix on issues that only know you as a human can look into. And you can also use AI tools to create a prototype design of your product. So that's basically creating a UI interface for your demo purposes. I'll also show this briefly as well and a little bit later. And then finally, something super useful is also for presentation and content creation, right? So you can also generate an entire presentation slides based on the take prompts that you give these AI engines, and now you can generate maybe your speech, you can generate or brainstorm the content for the presentation based on these tools. So this is, you probably know this already from your experience of learning, but yeah, something that is possible right now with all these competitions. So I want to show perhaps briefly some of the recommendations tools for AI coding. So this is for presentations, right? If you go to presentations.ai, and you can basically use this tool to create a full presentations based on the text that you give it, right? So you can perhaps you can draft out what you want to present, and then you can perhaps put in some of the findings that you have and put it into a prompt, and then it basically creates a very beautiful designed presentations for you, and then you can basically also edit it live on their platform. So I highly recommend if you want to try it out for your presentations. And then for coding, there are two main tools that I can recommend. One is cursor.ai. The second is Windsurf, Windsurf from Codium. So both these tools are basically native AI coding editor. What it means is that I think everyone is familiar with Visual Code Studio, and there's an AI integrated components for Visual Code Studio, but the AI integrated component, it's something that is an add-on, right? So it's not something that is integrate natively into the editor. So a lot of times you have to switch around, and you also even have to go out of the editor to search on some things from ChatGPT as well. So these AI code editor, they are completely native editor that use AI engine as part of their coding tools, and so they're very familiar. I'm using cursor, so I can showcase a demo of that, but you can also use Windsurf as well. So these two are the best on the market right now. And Cursor, for example, is made by, I think, a few MIT dropouts who worked for, I think, Microsoft and Visual Code Studio, and then they basically do a fork of the Visual Code Studios, and then they create Cursor and they integrate AI tools natively onto that. So when you open it, and as you can see here, it basically looks exactly like a Visual Code Studio environment. And as an example, I download this data sets, which is top 100 most popular K-dramas, just as a fun example. So in this data set, it has the name of the Korean dramas and then the year productions and the ratings, as well as how many episodes, and then when it's airing, what is their genre, and then what are the number of people that watches, for example. And then so as an example, I can show perhaps on the interface here. So on the left, you will see basically exactly like Visual Code Studio. So you see all the files and all the instructions, and then you also see an interface where you can basically see all the different components of the files. And on the right, you will see a chat box here where you have the composer and the AI engines that you can use to ask to generate different tools and different coding for your files. So there's fun things that you can use it for. You can actually use it as an agent where you actually can let it just automatically do whatever task for you. You can also do asking, which is the normal function that I would actually put. And you can also put here any context for the code that you want to generate, right? So as an example, if I am a data scientist and I want to perhaps analyze this particular file, the top 100 most popular K-dramas, then what I would do is I want to add context here, files, and I want to put then the top 100 most popular K-dramas here so that the chatbot knows then, okay, I'm looking into this CSV file, and then maybe here I want to say please as well, because as everyone know, if you are polite with the AI, it actually creates better code for you. Please create a Python file, analyze the data in this CSV file. This list of Korean drama with info on ratings and viewership, etc. Please focus on analyzing interesting insights about it. And then now it will generate for me a Python script to analyze this. And then because I asked this to generate interesting insights, right? So that will artificially infer, okay, what are some of the potential interesting insights that are here? Then it basically creates all the code for you. And then I can just ask it, please make the Python file with the above code so that it can then also generate the file for me, because I'm being lazy and I don't want to copy and paste. Automatically, we have a Python file here that analyzes this, right? And then I can just accept or reject. And with this, you can basically ask the chatbot to do a lot of different things, right? You can also, if you have a particular file that you want to add into it, you can also do it here. You can also add documents. You can add even an entire new coding language into here, and then it will also look into the syntax of that code, and it also generates that particular type of code for you. So there are many different things that you can do in terms of adding the different context into it so that it can actually do a better job for you. And when you go into the actual code, you can also chat with these different things as well. You can also ask it, what does this code actually is talking about. You can also even generate very specific segments for your code here as well. For example, here you can see if you hit Command K, and then I can also edit the instruction, put better comments for this code, elaborate details, for example. Then it will then also do that job for me so that I can easily also share this with my teammates as well, so people know exactly what does this mean, right? And I can just click accept all so that I have that in here. So this is just one example of creating something for data analysis, right? You can also create entire prototypes and projects in here as well. But what I can highly recommend is actually have you make a plan before you use the AI. Right? So if you want to build a prototype, for example, you want to build a products, then actually make a plan, right? So actually have some jot down some guidelines on what you actually want the chatbot to do, in terms of what kind of functions you want the prototype to have, what kind of details you want the prototype to have, and also what kind of technologies you want this to be, right? Whether it's written in Python, whether it's what does the front end look like? Is it React or is it something else? So having a plan gives a much better guidance for the chatbot. You cannot just say, okay, create me an app for analyzing this particular things. Then the chatbot is kind of confused because it doesn't know what to write this particular chatbot on in terms of the programming language. And also, it doesn't actually have a very clear directions of what kind of functions that you would want for your prototype, for example. So having a very clear guidelines of maybe bullet points of exactly what you want and what kind of features you want, and also what kind of programming language you wanted to write, and then it can actually create all these different files and layers of abstraction for you as well. And I want to show also one more examples. So as part of this, you can also put in images as well, right? So for example, if I want to maybe create something like this, and you can see here, it's basically just a login page. Right? So it's a login page, very simple. And perhaps if I want to create something similar, and this is also something that you can draw, right? So you can also draw on your iPad of exactly what you want your app to look like. It doesn't have to look as pretty as this, or you can also put on um, perhaps Canva, and you can also put in all the different shapes and things that you want what your app would look like, and then you can put this image into the context, and just take out these two contexts, and create, please create an HTML file with this form, making it look exactly like the image. So, and then let's see. Okay, let me send this again for the context. Okay, where's this acting up again? Okay. Okay. Now we have the HTML code. I'm not sure actually which one I put. I think it's this one. Okay, now we have the file here. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah. So for comparisons, this is the original file that I want to replicate, and this is what the HTML file that the chatbot create, for example. So as you can see here, it's actually very close. If you can just put the background photos into here, then it basically is an exact match. So just to showcase an example of what you can use the chatbot for and Cursor AI for in terms of creating a prototype. There's a lot of times I see in this competition is that people don't actually create full-fledged app, right? They don't create a full-fledged working prototype. They actually just create a mock-up, something like this, right? So you can like link several pages so that you can also make it interactive as well, but something visual so people can see that you actually done some work in terms of creating something interesting. And as I mentioned earlier, you can also draw and then put it as a context into here, or you can add an image that you have created so that you can make your own prototype as an HTML or as a particular app as well. So that's a possibility right now with these coding platforms using AI engines. So that's the end of my presentations. I hope everyone is still here and listening. So do you have any questions for me in terms of yeah, the hackathons and things that you should be aware of, these AI tools and where um, what you can do with it? Yeah, feel free to raise your hands and then we can talk about it. I think there's some questions in the chat. Yes, there's always university dropouts behind these different tools. Deborah asks, hi, yes,
Me?
yes,
Um, okay, yeah. Firstly, I missed the part on the reimbursements. I think something was going on with my network, so I missed what you were saying about that. If you can just maybe reiterate. And then secondly, um, I'm unable to you when you were mirroring your screen, you presented or you showed something about presentation AI,
yeah,
something that generates good presentations.
yes,
For some reason, my PC does not recognize that, or it
okay.
says server. It doesn't take me to that page. Is something I can do? Yeah,
Let me
I
see.
wanted to do the April.
I put the presentations.ai in the chat here. I hope you can also look into it and then see if it's something that you can use. And then I think Deborah has a question. So if we have no coding experience, oh yeah, I think you also asked the questions about reimbursement, right? So this is only for the students that going to Data Fest. So I think for the Hack Ed students, I think you also have your separate reimbursement with Civica. So that's something separate. But for the Data Fest, then the lab helps to fund for part of the trips of their students. And so the students would have to collect their reimbursement with the lab. Yeah. And then Deborah has a questions about if you have no experience coding, what is our role during the competitions? So Deborah, as I mentioned earlier, so there are a lot of different things that you can do within within the competition. Right? So if you're not hacking, if you're not coding, then you can look into the presentations part. Right? So you can be the presenter, or you can do the research part. Right? So any hackathons and any competitions, they always focus on the particular topics, and then you always need to research on that particular topics, no matter how well versed you are in that particular industry. So it might be a topic in educations, perhaps maybe into yeah, AI usage in educations, for example. Then you would still need to do a lot of research into okay, so what are some of the ways that people are using AI in higher educations, how are countries handling it, how are universities handling it, how are students handling it, and then there's a lot of research that go into all these different competitions, right? And then you can also be that researcher to look into the research, all these topics, and then you can also be the presenter. You can also perhaps be someone that kind of connects everyone together, and also maybe you can also be the visualizers. You can also create visuals for example, the teams. So a lot of the competitions that I've attended recently, I know people they also have someone as like an AI artist in their teams who basically create visualizations for all the teams for their particular teams. Right? So it could be visualizations for their fun presentations where they create like a very cool storyboard in their presentations, for example. So there are a lot of different ways that you can do, and there are so many ways that you can also use these AI tools that are available today. So I think I also attended one hackathons recently where people also use AI speech engine as well, right? So for example, they actually half of their presentation is by someone real from their team, and then the other half is by an AI speech engine that they that goes together with a video, an AI video that they created as well. So there are many different ways that you can think about in terms of making use of all these available toolkits that are on the market today to make your presentations like really fun and interactive people. And I think it's like the sky's the limit with all these tools that are available. Do you have any other questions? If not, then yeah, I hope everyone is doing well, and I hope all the best for your teams and your preparations for the upcoming competitions. I think the Hackett team is going this weekend, so all the best for that. I think Madrid has also experienced quite warm spring this time around as well. So hope everyone will be able to enjoy it. I put my email here in the chat box, so feel free to contact me in case you have any questions. I'll also share the presentations to you afterwards as well, so you can look a bit more into that. And with that, thank you for joining today, and hope everyone's having a lovely day. And talk to you later. Bye bye.
Okay, should we decide on?
Thank you so much for organizing. We really do appreciate you, and I think our participant for Hackett also will really benefit from what you said. So, thank you so much also for your support to our initiative, and we will be in touch.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Vernon.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.